We're excited today to have an Adoptee Cafe member that we know who came to our Washington, D.C. event. So Sarah and I know her, and Greta is joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome.
Hey, Greta. So
Oh yeah.
glad to have this finally happening.
Oh
Yes,
gosh. Yeah, me too. Seems like it was months ago
it
when I
was.
it's and then it was suddenly upon me and I was like, oh boy. But
Yeah.
I'm so honored to be here, you guys. This podcast well it just changed everything for me because
Yeah.
I discovered you back in April and I was recovering from a surgery and so I had, some downtime with my medication. And so um yeah, I just did a deep dive and I listened to every single episode. I was just, plowing through it. And even my husband said, maybe you want to listen to something funny, take a I'm
Take a
like, no, no,
break.
no. I'm on a mission. I'm gonna so but yeah, it's so thankful. It
You
just
literally came out of the fog with us while you're listening, right? Like,
I think, well, maybe so, maybe so. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Um,
we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
What started you down the path
Yeah.
of like you found the podcast? What was the sort of shove to get you there to listen to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, that's a good question. Because I was kind of felt I was, I mean, in looking back, that I was, 1 foot in the fog and 1 foot out because
Hmm.
being adopted was always a huge part of my life and my story, but it was all mostly inside. I didn't get to talk about it, um, and just kind of went through life thinking I'm just weird and nobody thinks like me,
Right.
and just everything was inside. And then I had the book The Primal Wound that sat on my desk unopened for a while, and then yeah, I don't. It just I thought it's got to be a podcast, and then I saw that there were several, but I landed on yours, um, and I was then hooked, and then it just then I really started to learn. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, First of all, not being alone, just hearing the other stories, and it, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. I mean, I would want to run to my husband and look at my dog. Anybody who'd listen to me. That's that's how I
Yeah.
feel. The searching. I think one of the very early podcasts was forget his name, but I want to say he was from was it Vietnam, I think.
John.
John.
Okay, yeah, and going back there and then searching the faces,
Hmm.
and that blew my mind because I thought, yeah, because I did that so often as a kid, growing up in a small town and going to the the big town, which is Fargo, because I grew up in North Dakota. And Fargo was big city, and going to the mall there, and I couldn't wait to, because back in those days, your parents were like, yeah, get out of here, and so I just run around the mall for a couple hours by myself, and um, yeah, just search the faces and lived a lot in that ghost kingdom. I didn't have the words for it back then. Of course, I know what it is now.
Yeah. And what
Gosh,
was
the
your
mall was
life?
so exciting, wasn't it?
I
As soon
love
as
the
you said that, I
mall.
was thinking about how exciting it was to get dropped off at the
I
mall. And
couldn't wait.
I know. Mm.
And I would
So
head to the
yeah.
video
Oh
uh,
yeah, the
because
arcade.
yeah, I loved the arcade because there was a Star Wars game that you could actually sit inside. It
Oh.
cost 50 cents, not just a quarter. It was 50 cents. And Obi-Wan was talking to you in the screens and you were going,
God,
and
I loved it
it was
all.
just, and Luke Skywalker, he didn't know his
No,
parents,
he
right? So
didn't.
I was like, oh, anyway, yeah.
Well,
So
and
what, yeah,
yeah.
what is your, how did you come to be adopted? Where were you born? Obviously North
Um,
Dakota or
Yeah, I
ish.
was conceived in South Dakota
Okay.
back in 1968, baby scoop era, and I was actually the not the only uh, child conceived at that time. I had a maternal uncle who knocked up his girlfriend, and a paternal, obviously my birth father, and then his brother also. So there was three of them all at the same time. In fact, my birth father had to come home, and he was ready. He was in the garage. Oh, I got to tell mom and dad. And he was 17, and my birth mom was 16, and my uncle, his older brother, came in and said, "What's wrong?" "Oh, I got to tell mom and dad I got, pregnant." He said, "No, you can't. I got so and so pregnant." You can't tell mom and dad.
Really? That's
So
crazy.
yeah, so my birth father wrote a note and taped it to the Zenith, so they discovered the next morning. But so anyway, but they, of the three, I was the only one put up for adoption.
Yeah.
They were all, teenagers, but I was the only one put up.
And
And
why was that? I mean, she was 16, but
yeah, I mean, the other two guys were 18.
okay.
I think one was maybe 19. Um, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to speculate, I've tried to ask, and um, I don't really get much information, and so, but my maternal grandfather was uh, hardcore. I mean, Marine, Purple Heart at Iwo Jima, and I mean, he
Oh,
was, and he said, you're going away," and he sent my mother away to, I guess the closest place was Fargo. So I was born in Fargo, and
okay.
she was at a home for unwed mothers, and then I was in foster care about a month,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was adopted and grew up in a town just 60 miles west, and had an older brother, 5 years older.
Was
He
he also adopted?
No, he was their biological, yeah, yeah. And then they adopted me, and then they later adopted my younger sister, 2 years younger.
Yeah.
So I grew up in this very small town, 7,000 people. And
Yeah.
yeah, and my adoptive um mom and dad were, well, my dad was kind of just complicit and kind of checked out. My mom kind of ruled the house, and with a pretty, two iron fists, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and she was pretty difficult, and so I think that also contributed to me disappearing into the ghost kingdom, and constantly. I mean, I would follow teachers home from school, and get in trouble, and I'm like, "Stop following the teachers home." And
So she was emotionally
neglect,
unavailable, or was
yeah,
she?
neglectful, at times abusive.
Mm.
Her motto in
Yeah.
life was, "If it's worth getting mad over, it's worth staying mad over."
Whoa.
And
Yeah.
so she had your brother biologically. Did that, did they try again and couldn't conceive?
Yeah, the story I got from my dad, because my mom would never talk about anything, is that all he said was it was his fault that they couldn't have more kids.
Oh, okay.
No.
And then was she close to her first child, her biological son? Was she abusive to him?
Um, Not that I saw. He was the king of the castle. He
Mm-hmm.
was really good at sports, really popular at school, and uh, the way I looked at it was that yeah, he could do no wrong, and
Right.
he was a bully. Um, he was
He
very,
bullied you.
To you.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and into adulthood, we actually no longer have any contact, but uh, it wasn't. I wasn't really, yeah, close to him, or my younger sister. I never, she was adopted, but we never talked about it. I got caught talking about it when I was around 6, telling my friend that I was adopted, and my mom was livid, and I learned quickly
Ah,
that it was. something to be kept, inside. I don't talk about
Yeah.
it. So I just gravitated to, I'd make up stories in my head,
Hmm.
and I'd grab any movie or TV show that had anything to do with an orphan, you know, and of course Disney, there's tons of opportunity, you got
Every
Pollyanna,
mother.
you got all the stuff, and so I would just kind of use the movies or television, whatever, to find substitute mothers. I don't even know if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, but
Yeah, of course.
Carol Burnett was a huge one for me. Um, and others growing up as well. But yeah, the relationship I had with my mom, I just was I was the good, the quote unquote good adoptee, and my sister was more the one getting in trouble a lot. But so I just escaped into kind of
Mm-hmm.
creativity kind of thing. I was always acting and writing poems and writing plays and making, my friend do it in front of the class,
Mm-hmm.
even though she didn't want to really, but drag her along. And then basketball. Basketball was a huge save me, got me out of the house, and I was able to, um, get the validation, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
And you were close to your teammates, is that correct? You
yeah,
like
yeah, I had
that was
some.
your people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was the family and it gave me, purpose and something to strive for, in the sense that I knew that at a young age, I mean, I'm getting a college scholarship and I'm getting out of here. Um, and that luckily did happen. Uh, and I got a full ride scholarship to play basketball, so I was able to, you know,
Did you leave North Dakota?
yeah, yeah. I initially was going to go to the University of Chicago, and then the scholarship fell through at the last minute, like literally in April, and I was going to graduate in May.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, all these years of working, and it's going to be gone. What am I going to do? And then the University of Alaska, kind of out of blue, and I thought, Alaska. I mean, I grew up in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Not that Chicago was going to be a whole lot warmer either, but. Um, so I went up there on a trip and fell in love with it. It was in Anchorage, and a beautiful school, and they had a wonderful theater department. And
Hmm.
so yeah, so I moved pretty far away. So I got the hell out. I did.
Intentionally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did your mother have any, I mean, you don't have to say, but your adopted mother have any mental illness or like
I
they usually
yeah.
will?
Not that I know for sure how to diagnose her. I mean, I think there was for sure the narcissism.
Yeah.
And I do know that she came from a really tough upbringing, and so just I don't know if she just was never able to overcome her own wounds, and then projected things onto me, and
Yeah.
uh, just but could not open up, no affection, no I love you, nothing like that. And and it seemed like my mission was always to get that, like always at. I mean, I would do anything to get that from her, but I just could never uh, really achieve that. My dad was a little bit better though. He, especially because of the sports, he was really into sports, so sports
Yeah.
was kind of our connection. But when that ended, we didn't really have a whole lot to.
Now, at any point, did they tell you about your adoption or what the circumstances, any little bit of even non-identifying information?
No, nothing except that, don't talk about it. It's nobody's business.
Yeah.
And I did get the information that she was young. That's
That's it.
now later, after because I did find my biological parents, uh, a little nugget. What my mom said to me, that she, she she was talking with the social worker when they were finalizing the adoption, and she got really angry and told her off because she kept referring to you as this other names, and it started with an M. And I told her to knock it off. Her name's Greta. Don't call her that, And I said, name with an M, like what name? I don't know. Name started with an M. I don't know. So I later got that, and then I, of course, found out from my biological parents that it was Melissa. So I was originally named Melissa. Um, and hopefully someday I can get my original birth certificate because it's locked up in the North Dakota where
Yeah.
they keep those things um, sealed. And yeah, but I'd like to see it to see if what name is on it.
Of
And
course.
yeah, so
So what you go to
Yeah.
Alaska and where does life take you?
um, well, in 1989, and I was a junior, I think. I found I contacted Lutheran welfare services in Fargo that handled my adoption,
Mm.
and it took them about 4 months, and they tracked down my birth mother living in Scottsdale, and then my birth father at that time I think he was living in Moorhead, Minnesota. Um, I think so. And so I started writing letters because
Mhm.
she did want or agreed to have contact. So we started with letters and pictures.
You
And
were
I found
still in
out,
college, right?
yeah, still
89?
in college, yeah.
Okay.
And I found out I had a full blood brother and sister because my birth father, uh, after it was it was a small town in South Dakota that they had lived in. And as soon as
Yeah.
he turned 18, he joined the army and went to Vietnam. He said he'd rather go to Vietnam than stay and face
Stay.
the heat of a small town and getting somebody pregnant. And it was, so he went off to Vietnam. And when he got back from Vietnam, they um, got married, had my
So you have
brother,
two full siblings.
two full. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And they've since divorced, and
right.
he's had two more kids. So I have two half brothers as well.
Oh,
Mm.
So yeah, yeah. And
So 1989 is kind of a young age.
yeah.
You were young that you did this search.
yeah, in retrospect, I would advise to me, or don't do it unless at least have some therapy if you're going to do it that young. Because I was 21 and I was just counting down the days, to be 21 so I could, search. And um, yeah, I had no support. I look back at the journal that I kept at the time, and I just, oh man, it's painful.
But you wanted to. That's the
Oh
thing.
yeah,
That's
yeah, and the initial, because she did want contact, like we started with letters and then phone calls, and it went from 0 to 100. I mean,
right.
we went way too fast, and nobody was putting up guardrails. I mean, I can see it in my journal, like somebody should have stopped this because it was moving too fast. And I was losing weight. My coach was mad at me because I wasn't playing well. And um, so I had that stress. And then stress of my adoptive mom, who was livid. I
Angry.
met my birth mother. She flew up to Utah. I was on a road trip. And so she flew up for a game, and we met. And I'll never forget that, knocking, well, even before knocking on the hotel room number 230, um, thinking on the other side of the door is my mother. Um,
Mhm.
and as soon as she opened the door, she was already crying, and then I was crying, and we sat down in the corner of the bed and didn't move. And then looked up, and it was 9 o'clock at night, and said we'd been there sitting there for 7 hours. And I couldn't believe that time had passed. And I knew I had to get back to my room because we had a game the next day, and I did, curfew, and it was just excruciating to leave her. I just didn't, I couldn't, she came to the game. I have no recollection of that, but I know she did. And then the other thing I remember, my, her husband at the time brought my brother and sister, so I met them. That didn't go so well. They didn't know anything about me,
Okay.
and my
This is your half brother and sister, or your
no,
full?
this is full
The
blood.
full,
Oh,
but they were with the second
they were with
husband.
them.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, okay. I
And
was
they
confused.
were 15 and 13 at the
Oh,
and
that's a hard age.
yeah, yeah. And my sister was not happy about I mean, she was the only girl. She was the oldest, and suddenly I take that away and so it was it wasn't it was really not good between us in the beginning. It was hard. Um and so yeah. And my brother was, he's a 13-year-old guy. He's kind of go back to his video games, but
Right.
Atari.
As I'm
What?
sitting here, like I just realized you were 21, so that would have put your mother in her late 30s. It's
I know
hard
it's
to
Oh,
fathom,
yeah,
isn't it?
goodness.
That's
I know it is.
She's still a young woman. Sarah's
Yeah,
right. That didn't
yeah,
hit me. Yes. Wow.
yeah. So young, and um, so we did that, that honeymoon thing, the love affair or whatever, and it lasted, I think, about 6 months, and then it ended. I had called my birth father on Father's Day because I met him since in between there, and he was great. He was always in bands and uh, uh, creative and stuff, and so we really connected through that. And he just a really nice man, and um, we he told me that oh this yeah crazy story. So the little town I grew up in, his band was the house band at a bar in my hometown when I was, growing up. And on top of that, that bar was owned by my adoptive mother's sister and her husband.
wow.
Did you go partying there and he's playing in the band?
I was too young.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I was
That'd be
still,
crazy.
growing up. In fact, I found out he had also dated one of my Sunday school teachers.
Oh, God.
So we had
Oh my
so
gosh.
close that, but of course, never, connected.
Yeah.
And uh, yeah, so gosh, I lost
Your
my.
birth mother, 6 months in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I called my birthday on Father's Day, and I was excited too because it was the first Father's Day I was going to be able to wish him Happy Father's Day. And my sister picked up the phone, and she was immediately angry and wanted to know how I got his number and got very possessive of him, like he was hers or something. I don't know uh, exactly. I don't want to speculate too much, but it was really upsetting to me, and I didn't understand her anger, and so I called my birth mother, and she um, was instantly like angry with me that I was making accusations about my sister, and I couldn't believe like the the switch, that like, and uh, yeah, my birth sister had said once to me, because in the beginning like I said, it was really intense and it was lots of hugs. And I came down to Scottsdale. I remember on spring break, I came down to visit my birth mother, and you know, I stayed in the guest room, and she would come downstairs at night and get into bed with me, and we just hug and hold each other, and it was like my fantasy came true. I mean, it was like a fairy tale, and then it ended in that phone call. We stayed
Really?
in a relationship for 30 years, over 30 years, uh, but it was never the same. And I really understood my position, um, that I was third. The other two came first, especially Nicole. I said her name. I was going to say names.
That's okay.
um, anyway, oh well, okay.
So she was upset, and the mother instantly aligned with that and not rock that boat. You can't rock that boat. You're just over here.
Right, right. And but I
Painful.
was
Wow.
so grateful. I was just anything, I was like, that getting the crumbs, I just was so grateful that I didn't see that. And it was, and I think I kind of did see it, but it was too painful to really face and acknowledge. So I just, oh yeah, I'm good. I can stay back here. I'm good. You know,
Were you ever able to have a relationship with your siblings?
We did, through the years, and then, because after college, I moved to Los Angeles, and pursued an acting career, and did that for about 10 years, and then I moved to Phoenix, and then we got to be, closer,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I got married in her backyard, um, you
In
know.
your sister's backyard?
Oh, I'm sorry, my birth mother's
Oh,
backyard.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you were still close, but not the closeness you were.
Yeah, not that
Okay.
how it
Yeah.
was that initial.
Okay.
It was like I was like a cousin, like I'd go up there for Thanksgiving or Christmas and all this stuff, and there was, but I never, you know, s- said anything to my husband would come with, and I never said anything, and it wasn't until after because we are estranged now, that my husband said that he saw it. He said, "Oh, I knew you, and I knew the pecking order, and you were definitely the last." And I didn't know, that he
He
saw
didn't
what
want
I
to
saw, but
say.
yeah,
He didn't want
yeah.
to say that.
And it was like even too painful for me to really look at, that was the truth. Because would remind myself, oh no, no, be grateful that she even is giving you this, you know. Um,
Mm.
but I've, with a lot of therapy, have changed my opinion on that. Um, and you know, but you learn what you learn when you learn it, I guess. And then
And were you still in touch with your father all this time?
yes, yeah. We stayed in contact. He um, ended up in Las Vegas for a while. He was working for Debbie Reynolds. And then because he had initially got to know her up in Laughlin. She would come up. He was living in Laughlin and working at the Don Laughlin's hotel, in the entertainment marketing department.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to be close with her and Rip Taylor because he was like the opening act for her. And then she opened up her Hollywood Museum in Vegas, and she hired away my dad to work for her. Unfortunately, that didn't last very long because her Debbie Reynolds' husband came in and hired a whole new management team, and he got let go, and so that was the end of the Debbie Reynolds era. But but she was lovely about it. I have a copy of the letter because she wrote to him like, "I'm so sorry, it wasn't my decision," and you know, um, and so yeah, he had his little Debbie Reynolds, but then he moved back to South Dakota. He lives in South Dakota now. My two half brothers, yeah, as
He
well.
And
went
do you
back
have
to
a relationship with them, your half
Yeah.
brothers?
Uh, uh, Recently kind of reconnected because I'm, quite a bit older than them. So,
Yeah.
and especially the one older one, he's 31. We have, in the last several months, I reached out to my birth father and said, I'd really like to connect with them a little more because I hadn't really had much relationship with it. Living so far away and there was such a big age difference, it just,
They were kids, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, exactly. Um, and they both were open to it. But the one we have just bonded, and he is just a beautiful human, the sweetest guy.
oh,
He's 31. He's married, and uh, every time we get on the phone, it's a couple hours, and uh, I've never had a sibling that asked me about me. He seems genuinely interested in wanting to hear and wanting to hear about the adoption stuff. He asks questions, and is curious and is just an absolute sweetheart. I adore him. Yeah.
How validating, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you said you're estranged now from your birth mother, and are you also estranged from your siblings?
Um, my sister, not
Oh,
my other brother, but yeah, a few years back, well, 2021, there was a lot of family drama that had been building. My sister had struggled with some addiction issues, and
mm,
it caused a lot of issues in the family. And there was a lot of, you know, in my opinion, enabling codependency
mm.
going on. I did not see my own codependency, but we'll talk about that. Uh, you're codependent. Um, uh,
It's hard.
so then it culminated in uh, my sister was living a very risky, dangerous
Oh,
lifestyle, and she got, I won't go into it all, but she got stabbed, and
right.
the she's okay, but the criminal case, because I was at the time working as a paralegal at the legal defender's office, which is part of the public defender's office, and the criminal case got assigned to our
Oh
office.
no. Truly.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I can't believe. So I had to go to my head of my office and say, we have to conflict off the case because my sister's the victim, it was all this stuff. So I had it, and I was kind of losing it. And I spoke up to my birth mother about the enabling, and it just was
Ooh,
enabling her into the grave. This is not helping. And she got very angry with me, and that's where the rift really kind of started. And then my husband said, you're kind of losing it. And so I decided, yeah, it's time to go back to therapy. I tried therapy several times in the past, but never stuck with it. And but I discovered that I just did not have the right therapist for me.
right. I was gonna say probably half of it's adoptees never have the right therapist for so long.
Yeah. And I finally found the right one for me.
Good.
And she's been amazing. And we really, in going through everything that you go through in therapy, and peeling away the layers from the onion, so to speak, I started to lose a dramatic amount of weight as I was going through this process of shedding uh, the, you know,
Yeah.
all this stuff in therapy, and I was losing all this weight, and so it got to the point that it was out of control. And so I ended up going to treatment for my anorexia in let's see, it was February of 2022. Um, and so I spent 65 days away from my dog, and my husband.
Mm. Right.
Um,
Your husband,
But I get it, the dog.
right? But the
yeah,
dog's the
sorry, dudes, but right.
it's the truth.
So that was the hardest thing
I'm sure.
ever, because I was 53, and I don't know if you've ever been to one of those, but they
No,
tend to be a lot of younger girls, and so I was just the old lady on the block for sure. And
but it's anxiety. I mean, it's an anxiety disorder. So it's like I'm sure there's a lot of people suffering at 53 that aren't doing it, you know.
yeah, exactly. And it just to finally just stop life, and I was fortunate that I had a husband who could help facilitate, being able to do that. So lucky that I was able to go get the treatment, um, and I met some really lovely girls, and one in particular. Uh, we got close. One day we were on the lunch duty cleaning the dishes, and I don't know how it came up, but it came up that she was adopted.
Oh,
And I, of course, like, what? I just glommed onto her because I never got to talk to anyone adopted. I had an adopted sister and we never talked about it. So I couldn't believe it. And then we did start talking about it and we got to be quite close.
at 53, this is really your first conversation with another adoptee. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And talking about some of the things of what
Yes.
feels like. And I just like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And I got out of treatment before she did. And then but she was struggling uh, pretty pretty badly, and um, she had tried to kill herself in treatment,
Oh,
and so they sent her to a psych hospital in Scottsdale to undergo electroconvulsive therapy treatments. So since I was out of treatment, I would go up and visit her a couple times a week, and we would sit in these orange plastic chairs and uh, sweat because we got stuck back in this window, but it was a private area, and just think, it was kind of like Cuckoo's Nest. You were making fun of treatment and
yeah.
all the crazy stuff that you have to do or can't do, and different things, um, and we definitely bonded, and uh, but unfortunately, she did ultimately. Yeah, she got out of that, went back to treatment, and then she tried to kill herself again. They sent her to another psych hospital in Phoenix, and they let her go after a couple days. And then um, just like maybe just a few weeks after that, it was July of 2022, and she did take her life.
Oh, I'm so
Mm.
sorry.
So,
Another
and
adoptee to the. God,
I
I'm sorry.
Mm.
found out from her partner that she discovered that she was looking for her birth mother
Oh,
a few weeks before she died, and just in finding, you know, now you guys and the community and everything. I just like I think about it so often. Like if she had that, um, but you'll never know, I guess. But I do.
gosh.
Um, um, but, uh, but she stayed with me. I made her. Well, let me go back. When I was in treatment, I was thinking about I had to write about this crazy experience because it was crazy. Yeah, I got to write about this, but I couldn't land on in what form. Should
Mm-hmm.
this be a book? Should it be a screenplay? No, nothing was hitting me. And then one day, uh, they decided to put on a movie, um, which I was thankful for because all the girls were all that they wanted to watch was Law and Order, and there's like 9,000 different types of Law and Order.
Every
And I'm
season.
like, that's my job at home. I work on death penalty. I don't want to watch this, you know. So I read or I journaled, but so they would watch that or Real Housewives. So it's one of those two, and so I was grateful that they put them. Hey, we're putting a movie on, and they put on My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and the
Oh,
light bulb went off because that was originally a one woman show in Los Angeles,
right.
and I thought that's what I have to do. I have to write a, a solo show, which of course I've never done anything like that before. And thought, how the hell do you do that? Um, but that's what I landed on. So when I got out of treatment, and I started, I worked with a writing uh, uh, kind of mentor for about a year, just writing all kinds of different stories about my life or whatever. And he's an actor, and he did a very successful one man show in Los Angeles, and it went to San Francisco and New York. So he really knew what he was doing, but he works a lot, and he got hired to do Tuesdays with Morrie in Ireland, and he was going to be gone for 8 weeks on that, and then I kind of built this momentum writing, and I didn't want to lose that, so then I found another a woman out of Los Angeles, and I worked with her, and then helped. And she was ultimately my director, helped me to develop the show, and so actually,
And it's incredible because you sent it to us. Are we allowed to share it in the show notes or no?
Sure, no, yeah,
Really? Okay.
and
People would identify.
well, thank you, thank you. It was
Now, can I just go back because
yeah,
I'm still curious. We didn't finish about, did
Yeah.
you were you estranged by the time you went into treatment and you remain estranged?
yeah. By the time I went to treatment, yes, we were estranged. I didn't even tell her. She
Oh.
did find out, but that's a whole other story. But and when I got out of treatment, I never heard from her. She had never reached out to my husband to at least ask about, like, she okay, nothing. And then I felt like this thing was kind of hanging over my head, so I needed to address it. So I made a phone call to her in it's 2023 January. So it's coming up on 3 years ago now. I called her, and she didn't take my call initially. And then later that day, I called again, and then I left a message. And my husband and my best friend were there, and they heard the message I left. And and but she didn't take that call either. And
Hmm.
I hung up, and my friend said she was crying, and she was, as a mother, I can't believe she didn't pick up the phone in the middle of what that message that you just left. Um, I don't even remember what I said, but uh, it was pretty vulnerable. I just laid it, uh,
Yeah.
um, and then I got a call from my maternal aunt, her younger sister, who I am very close with.
Mhm.
Um, and she said, yeah, she's going to reach out to you. And if, I said, when, and so a couple days later, she did call me. I recorded the call because I thought I was going to probably disassociate through half of it. So I wanted to remember. So I did record the call. Um, and it lasted about half an hour, and it was awful. It just, we went in circles, and I didn't feel like she was hearing me at all, and uh, I finally got to the point where I just said, do you even want a relationship? Now, I actually thought she was going to say, yes, but I don't know how to go forward because we're butting heads, or something along those lines, but that's not what she said. She
She
said,
said no.
I don't know.
Oh.
And that completely caught me off guard. So I just told her, I said, well, when you figure it out, give me a call. And she said, okay. And I said, okay. And that was the last time we spoke. So I guess
Mm.
she's still figuring out, but
When was that? I'm sorry. What year was that?
January
Jan-
2023. Yeah.
Okay. Gosh.
And I learned, from my my maternal aunt, she's shared with me some stuff. And because she was about 8 years younger than my birth mom, and she remembers that time. And they shared a room together. And she said, nobody talked about anything. And she said, I didn't know what was going on. There was just lots of yelling. Your birth father got pushed through like a window.
Oh, wow.
There was lots of crying. She came to bed crying every night. So I can imagine what my cortisol levels were like. She was pregnant with me and definitely not throwing a baby shower. Um, so it was very stressful for her. And then on top of that, yeah, she got sent away to North Dakota
Mm.
all alone at 16 to have a baby. So, I think she's just really kind of, stuck back at,
mhm. That makes sense.
you know,
It's quite common too. We hear this a lot. I mean, it is such a trauma, right? For them. And a lot of people get stuck at that age. They may move on in life, but around you, they're stuck at that age.
exactly, and you think when she looks at me, does she see pain or feel pain or, because it was, yeah, such a traumatic. I mean, I don't have, kids, but uh, I know that you guys do, and I've heard it from friends. I mean, probably any mother out there, when you have a baby and you look down at your child and thinking, you know, no one is taking this,
Right.
how difficult when they had no, and we know how it was then, and that
Yeah.
crap is still going on now.
Yes, it is.
Um,
Yeah.
so I definitely have compassion, and there are times I have to really resist not chasing her. Um, uh, and same with my birth sister, who's just ghosted me twice now. So I I'm really in the stages of just working on. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you have any contact with your adoptive family?
Mm.
no, well, my both parents are dead,
Oh, okay.
and my sister and brother that I grew up with we haven't talked uh, since 2022.
Mm. Weird, isn't it? How,
Yeah, when my dad died, it was
Was it?
that was it. I asked. He was in a home because he had dementia. He was up in a veterans home in North Dakota, and I painted him a painting, and I had so when my sister was gonna, empty out the room, whatever few belongings he had left after he passed, I just asked her for the painting back, but never got it. So,
Really?
I don't know where it ended up, but uh, uh, that's not why we're, estranged
No.
the way we
right?
were.
That's another
We were
layer.
never close growing up. I mean, people couldn't believe that we were in the same family. They're like, "You guys are sisters." That's so bizarre because we were so different. I mean, I knew why, but you know,
Right.
yeah, but it just wasn't.
She's probably got her own journey with all this inside, even if she doesn't
Yeah,
deal with it, right?
yeah, and I know she hasn't searched, and she was so angry with me when I did.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, after I met my birth mother and she came up for that basketball game. It was right before Christmas of 1989, and then I flew home for Christmas, and my uh, or I'm sorry, my adoptive family, my sister and my brother was away at college, so he wasn't really around, but or he might have even been out of college. He was out of college actually. Yeah, he was just kind of doing his thing, but uh, yeah, my dad just cried and said, "We just don't understand why you would do this to us,"
Oh, yeah.
And
Mm.
I got that too.
yeah, and then my mom and sister were just really angry. My mom, like, you betrayed the family, you did all
Oh
this stuff.
gosh.
It was
It's
pretty.
it's crazy your
I
sister's so angry when she was the rebellious one.
I know that, and I could be totally wrong about this, but it, but it felt in the moment like uh like and I was like the bad one now because she was
Oh,
always the she was like,
like I'm bonded now, you're
yeah,
not.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know that I'm right on that, but
Yeah.
it kind of felt a little bit uh, uh, because I was such a, yeah, the people pleasing, never got in trouble, never. My siblings had I never had a curfew. I was always, home or playing basketball, and at home I was hidden in my room and watching movies or reading or painting or whatever, so I wasn't out. I didn't party. I didn't do any, when I go back for reunions, some friends just like, "Oh my God, isn't it so funny to see Greta drinking?" Like,
Oh
well, yep.
gosh. Wow. What a interesting story, Greta. I hope that, you know, things will shift for your birth mother at some point
Me
and
too. Thank you. No,
yeah, because I know that's painful and
Yeah.
confusing and
yeah,
but
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. I'm definitely open to it, but I know that those tricky boundaries.
Hmm. Yeah.
Damn
Like,
boundaries.
but, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It was really,
Yeah.
Oh, my uh, honored, and again, just thank you so much to you too. You've just opened up a world to me that has changed my life, and I getting to know you guys and getting to know some of the people in the Washington D.C. event was just so amazing. That whole weekend was just perfect. It was everything was amazing. So thank you.
It's so
thank
good
you.
for us, right? Finding community. That's the
Oh,
thing. Yeah.
I highly recommend.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you, Greta.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Greta.
All righty.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.